Hello students and welcome back. Today we will continue with the story of Ruskin Bond, the thief's story. So students, before going ahead, let's have a recap of the story. Here it goes. The narrator, Hari Singh, is telling his own story as he is a thief. He wanted someone from whom he could rob. So he met a man named Anil. He became friends with him and started working for Anil. The narrator stole 1 rupee from the money that he got to buy the daily groceries. One day, Anil brought home some money which the narrator saw, and his intentions changed. He thought of stealing that money. So students, let us see what happens next. Let's read the story ahead. Well, it's time I did some real work. I told myself, I'm out of practice, and if I don't take the money, he'll only waste it on his friends. After all, he doesn't even pay me. Anil was asleep. A beam of moonlight stepped over the balcony and fell on the bed. I sat up on the floor, considering the situation. If I took the money, I could catch the 10:30 express to Lucknow. Slipping out of the blanket, I crept up to the bed. Anil was sleeping peacefully. His face was clear and unlined. Even I had more marks on my face, though mine were mostly scars. My hand slid under the mattress, searching for the notes. When I found them, I drew them out without a sound. Anil sighed in his sleep and turned on his side towards me. I was startled and quickly crawled out of the room. When I was on the road, I began to run. I had the notes at my waist, held there by the string of my pyjamas. I slowed down to a walk and counted the notes. 600 in 50s. I could live like an oil-rich Arab for a week or two. When I reached the station, I did not stop at the ticket office. I had never bought a ticket in my life, but dashed straight to the platform. The Lucknow Express was just moving out. The train had still to pick up speed, and I should have been able to jump into one of the carriages. But I hesitated. For some reason I can't explain, and I lost the chance to get away. When the train had gone, I found myself standing alone on the deserted platform. I had no idea where to spend the night. I had no friends, believing that friends were more trouble than help, and I did not want to make anyone curious by staying at one of the small hotels near the station. The only person I knew really well was the man I had robbed. Leaving the station, I walked slowly through the bazaar. In my short career as a thief, I had learned to study men's faces when they had lost their goods. The greedy man showed fear, the rich man showed anger, the poor man showed acceptance. But I knew that Anil's face, when he discovered the theft, would show only a touch of sadness, not for the loss of money, but for the loss of trust. So, children, the narrator thought that he should steal the money that Anil had brought, because he hadn't stolen for quite some time. He also thought that if he would steal that money, then Anil would waste all that money on his friends. At night, when Anil was asleep, the narrator woke up and thought to himself that if he took the money now, then he could catch a train to Lucknow at 10:30 and disappear. So, after planning, he got out of his blanket and crawled near Anil's bed and saw that he was sleeping peacefully. He also noticed the clear face of Anil and compared to all the marks on his face which he had got due to his stealing habit. So, after he had robbed the money, he was walking on the road. Soon after, he started running. He had hid the stolen money at his waist, which was held by the strings of his pyjamas. After a while, he stopped and started counting the money. The total amount was 600 rupees in 50 rupee notes. He thought that with so much money, he can live like a wealthy rich man for 1 or 2 weeks. When he reached the station, the train had slowly started moving from the platform. He could have easily caught the train, but he hesitated and himself did not know the reason for it. After the train had left, the narrator was alone at the platform. He was left with no place to sleep at night. The only person he knew was Anil, and he had looted him as well. After leaving the station, he walked through the bazaar. He thought to himself that in his short career as a thief, he had learned to study men's faces. In short, he could read people's faces when they were robbed. He knew that a greedy man would show fear. The rich man showed anger and the poor showed acceptance. But he knew how Anil's face would be when he found out about the robbery. He knew that Anil would be sad not because he lost his money, but because Hari Singh, the narrator, had broken his trust. So students, let's read the last part of the story. I found myself in the Maidan and sat down on a bench. The night was chilly. It was early November, and a light drizzle added to my discomfort. Soon it was raining quite heavily. My shirt and pyjamas stuck to my skin, and a cold wind blew the rain across my face. I went back to the bazaar and sat down in the shelter of the clock tower. The clock showed midnight. I felt for the notes. They were damp from the rain. Anil's money. In the morning, he would probably have given me 2 or 3 rupees to go to the cinema, but now I had it all. I couldn't cook his meals, run to the bazaar, or learn to write whole sentences anymore. I had forgotten about them in the excitement of the theft. Whole sentences, I knew, could one day bring me more than a few hundred rupees. It was a simple matter to steal, and sometimes just as simple to be caught. But to be a really big man, a clever and respected man, was something else. I should go back to Anil, I told myself, if only to learn to read and write. I hurried back to the room, feeling very nervous, for It is much easier to steal something than to return it undetected. I opened the door quietly, then stood in the doorway. In clouded moonlight, Anil was still asleep. I crept to the head of the bed, and my hand came up with the notes. I felt his breath in my hand. I remained still for a minute. Then my hand found the edge of the mattress and slipped under it with the notes. I woke late next morning to find that Anil had already made the tea. He stretched out his hand towards me. There were a 50-rupee note between his fingers. My heart sank. I thought I had been discovered. I made some money yesterday, he explained. Now you'll be paid regularly. My spirits rose, but when I took the note, I saw it was still wet from the night's rain. Today, I'll start writing sentences, he said. He knew, but neither his lips nor his eyes showed anything. I smiled at Anil in my most appealing way, and the smile came by itself without any effort. So, children, here the narrator sat on a bench in a park, and as it started to rain, he sat down under the clock tower. Then he realized that the notes had got wet. Then he realized that learning how to read and write would help him to get much more respectable and honest job, which would help him much more than these few hundred rupees. Then he decided to go back to Anil's house. He reached the room and placed the money back. But next morning, he woke up a bit late and Anil had already made his tea. Anil gave a 15-rupee note to the narrator as he had got paid for some work and told him that he would be paid regularly. The narrator's heart sank. What do you understand by this? It means he felt depressed. The narrator took the note and realized that the note was still wet from the rain last night. Now his spirits rose. It means he became very hopeful because he realized that Anil had come to know about his misdeed. There was no sadness, anger, or guilt in his mind. The narrator smiled in a beautiful way, and this time it was genuine happiness, as he knew that he had saved himself from the wrong road. So, students, with this we complete with this chapter. Wasn't it interesting? Now, let us do some revision based on the story. What could have caused the scars on Hari's face? He could have been beaten up when he was caught stealing, or the police might have punished him. This might be the reason of the scars on Hari's face. Why did Hari hesitate to board the train? He might have hesitated because he did not wanted to take Anil's money and just vanish, because Anil was really kind and helpful to him. Does Anil realize that he has been robbed? Yes, Anil had realized that he had been robbed, but he did not show it on his face. So, children, with this we complete with our today's session. I hope you understood the story. We'll meet again in the next video. Take care.